Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. In the last episode, in an effort to prove to the court once and for all who actually murdered Bruce Goodman, we ended up dragging Damon Gant to the stand and tried to expose how he was the one who actually murdered Bruce Goodman in the special evidence room in the police department, while also exposing how he's been controlling Lana for the past few years, and how it all ties back to the SL-9 incident. Unfortunately, right before we were about to essentially Deep Six the guy decided to essentially flee on us. So, without the ability to cross-examine him further, we're now trying to get any information we can to prove his guilt through Lana, even though you and I, the audience, know by this point that she's not exactly willing to be forthcoming with information because she's afraid of what Gant will do to her sister if she spills the beans on anything. But we have nothing else we can use right now to try to push the case forward, so we really have no choice on the matter. So we're going to go right back into the courtroom, try to drag some information out of Lana, and see if we can find some way to turn this whole thing around and put this whole bullshit with the SL-9 incident to rest once and for all. So let's get started. February 25th, 2:21 p.m. District Court, courtroom number 9. Now then, will the defendant, Miss Lana Skye, please take the stand? Miss Lana Skye, you are the chief prosecutor. I'm sure you're aware of what is required of you. But Mr. Edgeworth, you already know everything. You know all that I've done these past 2 years. Please provide the court with your testimony, Miss Skye. And remember, you are under oath. We want to hear the truth. Of course, the truth. Lana! No matter what happens, I'll always be your sister. Now then, your testimony, if you will. First, tell us about your relationship with Chief Gant. Everything hinges on your testimony. You're the only chance we have to get Gant. Gant and the fabrication. I worked alongside Gant for years. There's no truth to this blackmail theory. Yeah, we know that's BS. I fabricated the evidence 2 years ago all by myself. When I found Prosecutor Marshall's body, I rearranged the crime scene. My only motivation was to get Dark convicted. It had nothing to do with Emma. Yeah, okay. Fine. Are you sure about this testimony? Your Honor, I'm confessing to a capital offense. Of course I'm sure. But Lana! If this is true, then it means Chief Gant has nothing to do with this. That's what I've been telling you from the beginning. Please, Mr. Wright, you've got to help her. She's sacrificing herself because of me. But what if she's telling the truth? Oh, come on, you know that's bull. She's not. I know my own sister. Whenever she speaks stiffly like that, she's hiding something inside. Deep down, she's really screaming in agony. Yeah, this is no time to start second-guessing myself. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. I'm just going to press on some stuff here. For now. You worked alongside him for years. How many years exactly? Ever since I made senior detective. Let's see, I was 24 then. So that would be 5 years. Detective Gant and Detective Skye were legendary partners. I personally saw them testify in numerous cases. She must have been good, coming from the same school as Mia. Damon Gant was a respectable detective. That's why. There's no truth to this blackmail theory. But think about it, Miss Skye. You didn't murder Detective Goodman. You told me as much yesterday in jail. You still don't get it, do you, Mr. Wright? Any testimony you cannot present in court is as useless as idle gossip. I stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife. And I fabricated the evidence 2 years ago by myself. Did you do so to help your sister? Joe Dark was a serial killer. My sister almost became his last victim that day. I didn't want that incident to ruin her life. But what she did was justifiable self-defense. Not in this courtroom, apparently. Because as we've seen in last few episodes of this game, well, not as in, last few chapters of this game, murder is still just manslaughter, self-defense or no, murder is still murder in the eyes of this court. The circumstances don't really matter all that much. She wouldn't have been charged with anything. That's not the point. She was traumatized that day, all because of that creep. That's why I couldn't forgive him. Oh no. So that's why you fabricated the evidence 2 years ago. When I found Prosecutor Marshall's body, I rearranged the crime scene. You say you did this all by yourself. Yes. Would you mind telling us what you found when you arrived at the crime scene? It seemed I was the first person to discover the scene. The broken prosecutor wore a knife stuck in the victim's body. What? But Prosecutor Marshall died from an unfortunate accident. That's only a situation you dreamed was possible. The reality is, it wasn't my sister who took the prosecutor's life. Fantasize all you want, Mr. Wright, but I'll never change this statement. You mean Prosecutor Marshall wound up being killed by Dark? Something like that. If that is so, what happened to the other murder weapon? Dark was carrying a switchblade knife. Oh, that was lying on the floor a little distance away. It was probably knocked away in the struggle. That's not how it went down. She's trying to cover up her lies with more lies. All just to protect me. So when you found a scene like this, what did you do? After all, this is what everything boils down to. Yes. I broke off the tip of Dark's knife, planted inside the wound, then moved the body. Okay. You planted the tip of Dark's knife in the victim's wound? And then you moved the body? But why? Why would you do that? You of all people should know, Edgeworth. You always had a good head on your shoulders. My head isn't that bad, but maybe I'd ask it for the sake of the others. Why did you plant the knife? But why did you do that? Come now, Mr. Wright. Even you should be able to figure it out. Very well, let's add this to the witness's testimony. The reason Miss Skye fabricated the knife. I knew the tip of the weapon found buried in his body would be all the proof we needed. According to your testimony, Prosecutor Marshall's broken knife was the murder weapon, right? Yes, and leaving it that way might point the blame away from Dark. I thought the most effective way to get him convicted would be by having a tip of his knife found inside the victim's body. So you buried it inside the victim's stab wound. Yes, because I hated Dark for what he did. Tip of the knife. We have Neil's autopsy report, right? Stabbed in the back, died from punctured heart and wound. A knife tip was in the wound. Single stab wound piercing heart and lung. Why don't I try inquiring about why she moved the body? I feel like this is a dead end here. Why'd you move the body? When you showed up on the scene, where exactly was the victim's body? It was where you deduced it was, by Chief Gant's desk. But the body was found by your desk. Why did you move it there? The reason for that is simple. Let's have the witness explain this in more detail. The reason Miss Skye moved the body. The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan. The jar. Here's my opening. Pieces of the jar. You mean... Yes. That wretched jar you showed us earlier. In order to show that Dark committed to the crime, I felt it would be more expedient to move the body. So, when you first found the body, the jar was already... Of course. It had been shattered to pieces. If you looked at the crime scene, it would be clear right away what happened. Neil Marshall was dead, and Dark was lying unconscious. In other words, the jar must have been broken during their struggle. I see. But we already found a missing piece of the jar in Gant's safe. So I think what I need to do is present the unstapled jar on this statement and point this out to her. That she didn't get all the pieces. What's the matter, Emma? Apparently the jar shattered at the time the crime was committed. But I have a feeling there is more to it than that. There must be a contradiction here somewhere. Anyway, I committed this fabrication completely alone. So, let's see if I'm right. Yep! Miss Skye, I understand how you feel. You committed that crime 2 years ago to protect your sister. You mean the forgery at the scene where Neil Marshall was murdered? If that truth were to be exposed now, the past 2 years of your life will have been in vain. Even so, I am compelled to bring it to everyone's attention. A significant contradiction within your testimony. Contradiction? In my testimony? You testified, and I quote, "The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan." That's right. Do you have a problem with that? It's a simple oversight, really. You see, a message was written on this jar of the victim's blood. Yes. The prosecutor must have written it in his final moments. Exactly so. And this is where the contradiction lies. In order for the victim to be able to write his message on the jar, it must not have been broken before he died. Ah. That is true. He couldn't have written Emma's name on a shattered jar. Very good point. Order. Order! Your Honor, it would appear more information is needed in regard to this jar and its bloody message. We may be missing something critical here. Something critical. Chief Prosecutor, it seems you're as in the dark as we are about the truth towards which we're headed. What? Just tell us exactly what you saw. We'll piece together the information to arrive at the truth. Very well. The witness may now continue her testimony. Jar and message in blood. I immediately noticed the blood traces on the jar, but it was dark in the room and I didn't have time to check it out. To be safe, I wiped away the blood. The fragments were large, so I'm sure I got them all. Well, you didn't. All I could think about was wiping them clean before they were discovered. You mean you were the one who wiped away the message in blood? I wasn't chief prosecutor at the time. She didn't think Dark was the real murderer. That's why she tried to erase the real evidence. Very well. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Okay, I think I should press her on her statement regarding where she thinks that she got them all. I I want to be absolutely sure that she got them all before I present the jar again. But how could you see with the power out? It should have been pitch black in that office. A detective is always prepared, Mr. Wright. Even now, I always carry a pocket light and a camera with me. Even I carry a bottle of emergency luminol wherever I go. Yes, I remember, Emma. I never miss anything. I got every last piece. Yeah, no. You didn't. Miss Skye, I believe this jar conceals a truth even you were unaware of. What? We found the final piece of this jar in Chief Gant's safe. In the Chief's safe? But how? I knew it. She really didn't know. There's something even more disturbing about that final piece. What it implies, right? Basically, if you did truly get there to the crime scene first before anybody else, and you were sure that you got all the jar pieces, how did this one piece escape your notice and wind up in Gant's possession? So it kind of raises the question, then. Were you really the first one to arrive at the scene? There was still blood on it. But the witness just testified that she gathered every last piece and wiped the blood off of them. Yes, which leaves us with only one explanation. On the night Prosecutor Marshall was murdered, you were not the first one to show up on the scene. Chief Gant got there before you. Exactly what I just stated. But couldn't the defendant have simply missed a piece? Nope. I'm afraid that's unlikely. The pieces are too big for anyone to miss, let alone an ace detective. That may well be, but everyone makes mistakes. Even I once wasted an entire day looking for my dentures. They were in my mouth all along. Ha! Can you believe that? I forgot you even wore those. And yes, I can totally believe that, Santa Claus. You charming old geezer, you. Have you forgotten, Your Honor? When this witness arrived at the scene, the jar was already broken. Oh, that. There's no way a name could have been written on a shattered jar. Another person discovered the scene prior to the witness. I hope you're not implying this person was Chief Gant. That's exactly what I'm implying. At the time, he was looking for Dark downstairs. Besides, even if he was there first, why would he break the jar? The question is, if he did arrive there first, why did he hide that fact for 2 years? Well, Your Honor, can you answer us that? Yeah! No! There's something strangely delicious about making the judge react in such a way. Wait, I'm not the one on trial here. Astute observation, Santa Claus. Damon Gant arrived at the crime scene prior to the witness. He proceeded to break the jar and purposely hid one of the broken pieces. The question, what is this action called? Fabrication of evidence. But why would Chief Gant do that? In light of what happened afterwards, isn't it clear? To control Lana. To blackmail her. What happened afterwards? Discovering the scene, Lana Skye believed her sister Emma killed the victim. Determined to help her sister, she sought Gant's aid. Lending her his aid, Gant helped her create evidence that incriminated Dark, sparing Emma. And therein lies the reason. The reason why Miss Skye became the Chief's puppet. Ooh, you bit that thumb hard. No, I did it on my own. Please, sis, stop trying to protect the Chief. I can't watch you suffer anymore for my sake. No, you didn't. It wasn't you, Emma. You didn't kill anyone. Don't believe anything Mr. Wright says. Defense attorneys make up the most foul lies to defend their clients. Foul lies? Imagine that, coming from my own client. I guess you do seem the type who likes to twist the truth. Well, I'm certainly this kind of man who likes to bluff my way to the truth, but twist it? No, that's more Edgeworth's thing. Wait a minute. What if we're still smack dab in the middle of Gant's trap? Now there's a thought. Is something wrong, Mr. Wright? Lana may be right after all. What do you mean, Wright? So you do tell foul lies then, Mr. Wright? No. Miss Skye, please testify once more. But if evidence was fabricated behind your back, then Emma's accidental killing of Prosecutor Marshall might also be a lie. But I do remember knocking over Mr. Marshall. Miss Skye, if you will. I can't. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. This cross-examination may not change a thing. However, there is a possibility that it will, if you tell the truth. Very well. I'll testify about what I really saw. All right. The witness may testify once more, for the final time. Actual crime scene. When I arrived, I found Mr. Marshall's body impaled on that suit of armor sword. Emma and Dark were lying unconscious on the floor nearby. When I saw what had happened, I thought she did it. That's why I erased all the evidence that linked her to the murder. I had Chief Gant help me remove the body from the sword and carry it. But if all that really was fabrication, Emma might be innocent. Pretty much. Unbelievable. The body was impaled on the armored sword. You were the only one who saw that. If only you had proof. Actually, I do have proof. Do you? I gave it to Mr. Wright just this morning. What? To me? It's a picture I took of the crime scene as I encountered it. I thought it might be needed. But I don't remember receiving a picture like that. Well, I must have known. See, Mr. Wright? She really does have faith in you. Very well, Mr. Wright, please present this picture. I don't remember receiving any pictures from Lana. Lana said she gave it to you this morning, right? I seem to remember getting something from her then. Let's check that evidence again. There must be a picture in there somewhere. The evidence law book thing, right? Hello. Hey, there's a picture here. Look at that. You wanna know something that really sticks out to me right away? Take a look at Marshall's vest. Notice anything off about it? Anyway, let's move on. Oh my. This is the actual crime scene. No other detective saw the crime scene like this, because I contacted Criminal Affairs only after I had rearranged everything. Mr. Wright, a piece cut out from his vest. Could that be cloth we found inside Chief Gant's safe? Yup. What's this? This is a handprint, isn't it? Huh? That cloth has fingerprints on it. Whose fingerprints those are must be the real murderer. What? But those fingerprints... They're yours, Emma! Well, I don't know about you, but I think by this point, if you put 2 and 2 together, it's obvious what Gant's trap is. Why are your lips turning all purple, Mr. Wright? Anyway, let's get on with the cross-examination. So long as you tell the truth, we should be able to flesh out the real murderer. Very well. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Unfortunately for everybody, this cross-examination isn't going to amount to anything because Orange Man has something to say. Come now, Udgy. This is the poorest excuse for a trial I have ever seen. Chief Gant. What, now you want to make me out as the bad guy too? If so, I'd like to put a word or two in my defense. Number 1, I believe you said you had an appointment somewhere. And number 2, you've decided to not testify. So, what right do you have here to really just come right back in here and defend yourself? Objection! I'm afraid it's too late for that. What? You already declined to testify. That means you forfeited your right to make statements of any sort. He's right. This must be that risk we were talking about earlier. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of the noose tightening around your own neck. So what? You think I'm worried? So that little thunderous animation you just showed us just a second ago wasn't you being worried, huh? What was it? Was it you thinking? Was it you thinking about how happy you would be to eat something at a fancy restaurant or something? Maybe you wanting to go swimming? Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't need to make any statements. What do you mean? The evidence will do all the talking for me. Even if I can't testify, I can still present evidence. Yes, that's true. Wait, you mean you still have some conclusive evidence? No, I don't. But someone does. Me, of course. Someone. So, what's your excuse, Righto? Why have you been keeping quiet about it? You do have something to show us, right? Something that proves who knocked over Neil Marshall, causing his death. Conclusive evidence that leaves no room for doubt! Is this true, Mr. Wright? If I show that piece of evidence now, Emma's sure to be made out as the murderer. Mr. Wright, if you have any more evidence, present it now. And if you try to conceal anything, you'll be the one appearing before the Board of Inquiries. What do I do now? Better think this through carefully. I can't afford to make the wrong decision. Should I present that piece of evidence? The one who shows who really killed Prosecutor Marshall? Now, here's where you gotta be careful. Depending on what you decide to do here, you could get a different ending for this trial. Now, if you remember evidence law, let's go over, actually, why don't I just go over the thing right now here so I don't make any errors in recounting anything. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. And number 2, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. The thing is, that piece of cloth is unregistered evidence, and we have yet to prove its relevancy to the trial at hand. So technically, I could refuse to decline to show it, because it's not technically been proven to be relevant to what's happened at the trial. In fact, Gant has pretty much raised the possibility that I could have very well planted the cloth in his safe just mere days ago, and this piece of cloth may have not had anything to do with the SL-9 incident at all. So, yeah, I could just decline to show this thing, because I technically would, by law, have nothing to show. Or I could choose to present it, and I would essentially end up deep sixing Emma. So, what my choice boils down to is, do I follow the rule of the law and use it to turn the tables on Gant? Or do I willingly go and follow Gant's trap and see what happens from there? I think what I'll do is I will show what happens with the trap first, and then I will reload my save, and then get back here and show what happens when I don't present it. Yes, Your Honor. I do have further evidence. Alright, the time's finally come to show it to them. These prints have got to be the Chief's. Now then, let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall. I'm sorry, Emma, but luckily I have the ability to manipulate the time-space continuum in this game. It's a piece of leather cloth? Yes. It most likely was cut from the victim's vest, near his chest. What's this? There's a big handprint on it. Surely it must have been left on the cloth by whoever shoved the victim into the sword. What? Whose fingerprints are on this? I'm sure Wright has checked. Haven't you? Well, whose are they? They're Miss Skies. Miss Emma Skies. What? They're mine? So I really did do it. See? I told you it was conclusive. But this was found in your safe. That means it's possible you forged it. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember any cloth in my safe. Do you really expect me to believe that? What? Give it up, Mr. Wright. It's over. You shouldn't have presented that. By presenting that evidence, you tied Emma Sky to Neil Marshall's death. No. It appears we have our killer. No! No! Everything hinged on that point. In the end, Lana alone was found guilty on all counts. And that is pretty much our non-standard game over. Let's piss this guy off something fierce before we tighten the noose around his neck even further, shall we? Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time. What? You lie! Chief Gant? You opened my safe! I know you took what was inside! You might want to shut up. The conclusive evidence! I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Wright, why don't you show them? We found it together. Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know whose fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it. What are you talking about, Chief Gant? Can't you figure it out? Take a good look at this picture. See the victim's vest. Notice anything odd about the chest area? It looks like parts of it have been cut out. It looks like part of it has been cut out for some reason. You mean you had this? In your safe? What? That means you, the chief of police, fabricated evidence. Thank you so very much for proving my case for me. Have been concealing evidence. Well, concealing, but yeah. This is going to be the biggest scandal in the history of the police department. Impressive. To be honest, I didn't think you had the gall, Righto. Well, I can't just let you pin me up as the murderer. I'll tell you what really happened. Need I remind you that you forfeited your right to make statements, dipshit? What? You mean you admit to it? I was the first person to arrive at the crime scene that day. Then it occurred to me that I could use the situation to control Lana. So you really were manipulating her. I knew Lana. If I made it look like the blame lay with her sister, that's when she saw this. When she saw the scene, she would ask me for my aid. So you assisted Miss Skye. I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had her plant the knife tip in the victim's body and move the body across the room. And I ended up using that evidence to get Joe Dark convicted. When I tampered with the crime scene, I had 2 pieces of evidence. This was before Lana arrived at the scene, mind you. 2 pieces of evidence? You mean those items in your safe? But why? For insurance, of course. Insurance. I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder that girl committed. You mean you were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence? What do you take me for? A fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. See this jar fragment? I hid the most legible part of Emma's name. I didn't expect Alana to go and wipe the blood off all the pieces. Objection! But if you fabricated all the evidence, what's to say you didn't fabricate the message on this jar too? He raises a solid point. Some people just don't know when to quit, do they? That's why I kept one more item for insurance. You mean that piece of cloth? You could have just taken an unconscious Emma's hand, pressed it onto that piece of leather, and then cut it out, and boom. Come on, Righto. Cough it up already. I know you have it. What are you waiting for, Mr. Wright? So you admit to it then, Chief Gant, that you were hiding the cloth you cut off the victim's vest in your safe. Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do that, being chief and all. But it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer. Well, but people will still see you as horrifically corrupt, and rightfully so. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago, you said you didn't have any evidence you could present. Foolish move, Righto. You should have shown it then before it was too late. It's been a long battle. But the moment of truth has finally arrived. As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine. We're gonna show it now. Your Honor, I do have evidence to present now. Alright then, let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall. Take that! Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Oh yes. At last you finally brought it out into the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth. Your Honor, the prosecution requests that it be immediately sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather. There must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly. You mean, it could not have been forged? It must be authentic, conclusive evidence. You're as slow in the uptake as ever, Worthy. What? Think about it. Wright had all this time to present this evidence. Yet he was reluctant to do so. Why would that be? You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that. Mr. Wright, do you really know? Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer. Now I know how bad this looks, guys, but trust me, this is meant to happen. Everything that's going on right now. I promise it's not just a repeat of what I just did a few minutes ago. Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer. Whose fingerprints are they? Very well, I'll tell you. It should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. Made a plan, have we, Spiky? The person whom these fingerprints belong to is Emma's.
Take that!
Emma? Emma Skye? What? They're mine? I'm sorry, Emma. But why? Why didn't you tell me? Oh, you're really something, Righto. You knew this girl did it all along. And you still tried to pin the murder on me! So it's true. Tragic, but true. This girl really did shove Prosecutor Marshall to his death. How could you? You monster! This guy. You knew whose fingerprints those were all along, yet you acted like she really didn't. Miss Skye, it's not over yet. What? I said this trial isn't over yet. Ha! But I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career, too. You purposely concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue. Aren't you going to tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer. Before I do that, there's just one little thing I have to clear up. Uh-oh. And what's that? Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall? What? Chief Gant, you are absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you ask? It was Emma Skye, wasn't it? I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction. What? A contradiction? What is this fool babbling about? I'm talking about a contradiction. One that proves who the real killer is. Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth. What could it possibly contradict? Chief Gant, your tyrannical reign ends here. Behold, the piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth. Piece of evidence that contradicts the cloth. Well, remember that photo that Lana gave us? There is blood all over his vest, Neil's vest. So it begs the question, if blood got all over the left side of his vest, why didn't this piece of cloth get any blood on it? Why is it spotless? Well, Chief, you got an explanation for yourself on this? What exactly is this supposed to be? This is the picture Miss Skye took. Take a good look at it. See where the piece of his vest was cut out? Yes. His shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on his vest, though. Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood. That's only natural. His lungs, no doubt, were punctured. Blood poured out of his mouth. Oh! But that piece of cloth is spotless, save for the handprint. Wait. There's no blood on it. Ah! Since Emma Sky's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt that she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword at that time. No! This is nonsense! Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he was shoved aside. He most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Miss Lana Skye, picked up the unconscious prosecutor, and impaled him on the armor's sword? Well, buddy, I'm waiting. Then, to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, said person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood. A jar that they then broke on purpose to leave behind a clue and make Lana believe her sister did it. Remember what you admitted only moments ago, that you personally cut out this bloodless piece of the victim's nest. Ironic, isn't it? Through the very act of creating insurance, you proved that you were the actual murderer. No! It's finally all over. Objection! I feel so happy seeing you this distraught. Oh, that was close, Wright-o. You almost had me. I'm sorry, but you'll have to do better than that. I refute your allegations. What do you mean you refute his allegations? You see, that piece of cloth is illegal evidence. Well, you gave me approval to show it. Order! Order! What nonsense is this? Legal evidence cannot be used to convict a suspect. Remember, Raji? Earlier, old Wright-o here concealed that piece of cloth. Well, that's true. The defense did refuse to present evidence. At that moment, that piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence. That's not fair. Did you actually think you could best me in court? It looks like the last laugh's on you, son. I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth? True. Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person. I've been doing that throughout this whole game. Assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed illegal. Well, Mr. Wright? It seems, at last, the time for me to reveal my plan has finally arrived. Mr. Wright, do you admit to it, that you purposely and illegally concealed this piece of cloth? I did not. I admit I refused to present it at one point. Aha! So the evidence is illegal.
Objection!
No, it isn't, Mr. Gant. Huh? It's not that I didn't present evidence then. It's that I couldn't. What do you mean you couldn't? There are certain procedures involved in presenting evidence. No, Udgy! Don't listen to his lies! He's nothing but a coward! You can't really believe you're one to talk, buddy, about cowardice. There's only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not? Very well. Let us settle this once and for all. Earlier, you refused to present evidence. If you can prove your conduct was non-violation of the law, then do so now. With pleasure. This is my proof, Your Honor. Evidence law. What's this? I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Sky's fingerprints were on this piece of cloth. However, at that point in time, this was merely a piece of cloth. Nothing more. What? You see, it's written right here in this book. The second rule of evidence law. Rule number 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of evidence myself, inside your safe. It goes without saying I did not have the approval of the police department. Rule number 2. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. And here is the crux of the matter. You see, at the time it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL-9 incident. What? What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and... Sorry, but can you recall when that picture was presented? It was shown only a few moments ago. No. He's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth was still meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant. That noose must be real tight around your neck right about now, huh, buddy? You yourself confessed to a certain truth. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Yes, you cut it out. No! It was then that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes! You, the chief of police, personally approved this cloth. The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer. And there's only one person who that could be. Damon Gant! The killer was you! And he's lost it. I win. I knew I should have gotten rid of him. That good-for-nothing scum! For 2 years he's been snooping around the department, trying to get something on me. The only scum here is you, my friend. Crimes are being committed every day, yet he insisted on hounding me. Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty. He wanted to reinvestigate the case. He recruited Angel Starr, then convinced Bruce Goodman. Detective Goodman. Yeah, that's right. If the evidence is transferred, I'll lose the only chance to find out the truth. Please, you've got to help me. Goodman turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit. He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence. Goodman came to me that day. He wanted to file a lost item report. I went with him to the evidence room. Then all of a sudden he decided to speak out! What are you talking about, Goodman? Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? Sounds like he had a change of heart. We can't transfer the evidence out. There are too many questions left unanswered. He opened his evidence locker, and as he was taking the evidence out, he said, "It's not too late. I'm going to hand all this over to Marshall." Well, to be honest, I was a bit taken aback by his words. I imagine you were. I had a bad feeling when he came to see me, but I never thought he'd bring up SL-9. That's when I saw it. That cursed knife. And you killed him. I couldn't just pull it out. Doing so would have only led to more blood, making it near impossible to hide your crime. Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I hurried to wipe it up. I was worrying so much about the floor, I didn't realize my fatal mistake. The handprint on Gumshoe's locker. The bloody handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker. I used to be known as the crime computer. But everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it. Then you put the body in my car. I'm sorry. I couldn't think of any other way to move the body. I broke your trunk. But what's the big deal? You make a lot more than us detectives ever will. Ugh. Leaving the prosecution's car aside. How? How could you get Miss Skye involved in all of this? Well, she had as much to lose as I did if the truth ever came out. So, you took the evidence from Detective Goodman's locker. I felt bad for having to do it. I also didn't have the time to pick and choose what to take. So, you left the jar fragments and the glove. Yeah. It looks like I was better off being an investigator of crimes than a committer. No shit. They all did their best to get in my way. I gotta hand it to them. They do their jobs well. Much to my dismay. Fake evidence doesn't hold up very well upon close examination. You must have known that. Tell me, Worthy. Why do you stand in court? Me? You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me. We're the same. Not quite. One day you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it alone. Well, looks like it's time to say goodbye. Oh, Udgy? What? Looks like we'll have to cancel that lunch date. Sorry, old friend. I'm sorry too, Damon Gant. I knew you as you used to be, long ago. You You were once a fine investigator, an example to others on the force. I'm sorry to learn that you are no longer that person. Poor Santa. Those days are gone now, Udgy. Thanks for all the memories, though. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Now you have Wright here. And Worthy. With these two around, you can't go wrong. That is the kindest thing you've ever said about me. In fact, I can hear them already. The melodious sounds of a new beginning! There are two things I want you to understand. Yes. First, your sister never hurt anyone. Second, Damon Gant betrayed you from the beginning. You see, Miss Skye, you no longer have any reason to keep silent. You're right. When this trial is over, I'll tell everything. All that I've done these past 2 years. From the time I had Gant help me forge evidence, up until today. So, it seems all the questions raised in this trial have been answered. I'm sorry, Miss Skye. I couldn't get you out of all your trouble. My. What high standards you have. For a rookie. This rookie took down the chief of fucking police. I'll have you know. I can see why Mia thought so highly of you. With Edgeworth's help, I must stress, but still. Who knows? A few years from now, you just might make it to the top. This is the first time we've seen you smile, and it's glorious. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. Miss Skye. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. Believe me, I know how much of an ordeal it's been for you. It was nothing. Liar. I was worried the pressure might break you. And yet, you rose above it all and guided Mr. Wright to victory. You've done well, Mr. Edgeworth. Stop it! I only did my job. Well, not quite. Your job was to get a guilty verdict, technically. In light of this case, it seems a good self-examining is in order for all of us. Well, you're not wrong. I think you need to get your head examined. Miss Skye. Yes, Your Honor. You are innocent of murder. However, although the chief blackmailed you, the fact is you still acted as his accomplice. A trial will be scheduled for these crimes at a later date. Yes, I understand, Your Honor. Is there something amusing about all of this? Why are you smiling? It's been a long time, Your Honor. A long time since I felt free of these heavy chains. You're welcome. Well, this trial has gone on far too long already. Regarding the charge of murder, this court finds the defendant, Miss Lana Skye, not guilty. And thus I claim my final victory. That is all. This court is adjourned. February 25th, 5:03 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby Number 2. At long last, it's finally over. Emma? Why the long face? I'm sorry your sister didn't get completely off the hook, but at least she wasn't convicted for a murder she didn't commit. No, it's not it. Just now, after the trial ended. See why me have thought so highly of you. Give you my thanks. You know, I did my best too. But Lon didn't say a single word to me. Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. You're on a roll right now. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Get your ass back here, Sweet Shoe. Wait! Detective Gumshoe. What is it? You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Making a detective run all around while on duty, and to top it off, you call me here. I've seen happier people at funerals. Are you in a time loop or something, man? Hey, line up, pals. I'm only kidding. Oh. Are you here because of my sister again? Nope. Not this time. I came today because of you. Because of you, pal. Me? That's right. I thought you'd like to see someone. Hello, Lana. Lana! Should you be doing this? She's still under arrest, you know. Well, I won't tell if you won't. Aw, that's nice of you. Emma. I owe you an apology. It's okay, sis. Don't worry about it. That day, 2 years ago. It was the first time in my life I ever panicked. It was all I could do to keep myself from screaming. All I could think about was keeping you from getting wrapped up in that mess. Sis. I asked Gant to help me cover up the truth. I thought I was doing it for your sake. But now, I realize I was wrong. I changed after that day. I had to. It was the only way I could make it through the past 2 years. I knew how much I was hurting you by distancing myself. But I couldn't bring myself to tell you what I did. I was scared. Scared that you'd look at me with those eyes of look at me with those eyes of yours. I was scared of how you'd react if you knew. But sis, you're only doing it for me. No. Huh? I turned my back on you that day. In hiding what I believed to be the truth, I was deceiving you. Sis. I'm such a fool. It took me all this time to realize it. Emma. I'm so sorry. I don't think she wouldn't hold a grudge over you for this. She cares about you too much, Lana. But sis, you don't have to apologize. I'm happy now. You're happy? Of course. You know, sis, I always knew that one day you'd come back. And now you have. Oh, Emma. Emma! The heartstrings, they're being tugged. No one can change the past. The only thing we can do is strive to make up for our mistakes. Why we must make up for our mistakes, you ask? Because in so doing, we can find the way back to our rightful path. And it is from there that we can move on toward a brighter future. At least, that's what I felt, watching the two sisters make up. Mr. Wright, Mr. Gumshoe. Me? Thank you both for all that you've done. I'm sure we'll meet again someday. Isn't that right, Edgeworth? What are you doing skulking around unseen, warthog? Edgeworth? Stop hiding and come over here. Where was he hiding? I just came to say, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. Right. Well, I'll be going now. Okay, I feel... Excuse me. I felt a sneeze coming along. Right. Well, I'll be going now. Mr. Edgeworth, I hope you don't blame yourself for what happened. We were the ones who acted corruptly, not you. It's too late for me. No matter what anyone may say, I realize today that I can't correct my mistakes. I'm sure you still can, man. Mr. Edgeworth. Not only that, but I don't even trust myself anymore. Chief Gant was right. You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. I do despise criminals. I plan to dedicate my entire life to fighting them. But in order to fight crime on my own, I need a weapon. It's scary, but I've known that to be true for quite some time now. But Edgeworth, who knows? Given enough time, I might have tried to pull something like Chief Gant did. That thought terrifies me. That's why I can't continue on as a prosecutor. Edgeworth, don't you understand? Damon Gant and your mentor, Manfred von Karma, were both the best of the best when it came to fighting crime. But they both made the same mistake. You said in order to fight crime on my own, I need a weapon. That may be true, but think back to today's trial. You weren't alone. You were working together with Mr. Wright, and because of that partnership, you were able to present evidence that otherwise would have gone undiscovered. Isn't that right, Mr. Wright? Huh? What? Oh, yeah. What is this, a pop quiz? Come on, Mr. Wright. Show what Lana's talking about. Evidence, huh? Something that neither Edgeworth nor I would have been able to find on our own. Let's see. The evidence list. The picture on the back. Duh! Fuck, why did it take me so long to remember that? That's the picture I drew. Our counterattack began with this. You had one half of the evidence list, and I had the other. Apart, we wouldn't have been able to completely restore Emma's picture. That didn't just happen by chance, Mr. Edgeworth. It's time for me to go. It didn't happen by chance, Ward Boy. Acknowledge it, Mr. Edgeworth. If you'll excuse me, there are still some loose ends that need wrapping up. Take care, Chief Prosecutor. Edgeworth! What will you do now? Well, whatever you do, just remember. You can let what happened kill the prosecutor in you, or you can let it help you grow. In the end, it's up to you. I know. It seems I owe you my thanks too, right? But what I face now is my problem. Edgeworth, I'll be waiting for you in the court. Farewell. I better be going too. Okay. But I'll be by to visit soon. It seems we both have a lot to learn and catching up to do. Scientific investigation. Here, this is a little something for you. Scientific investigation. It's the first book I ever bought. Study it well. Thanks, sis. I will. That was sweet of you. And so, another case came to a close. As for the sisters, I have faith. Faith that their lives have only just begun. And as for me, I think it's time I started on a new journey of my own. A journey to rediscover myself. Well, don't go trekking off just yet, pal. Huh? What is it, detective? Can't you see I'm having a moment here? There's just a little matter to be resolved about the chief prosecutor. You see, she isn't supposed to be out of jail like this. But I thought you said it was okay. Yeah, well, it might be okay with me, but the folks at the prison are a different story. Huh? Basically, I had to bribe a guard in order to sneak her out for 30 minutes. Believe me, it wasn't cheap either. Huh? Way to go, detective. I didn't know you had a wild side. Yeah, well... You see, Mr. Wright here is the one who'll be footing the bill. Why me, man? Huh? Huh? What, you think I could afford it with my salary? You gotta be kidding me, pal. Why not have Edgeworth do it? Huh? 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 Thank you, Mr. Wright. You're the best. I object to this bullshit. Why is it? I suddenly feel like I want to scream. Hey, I got an idea. Why don't we all go pay it off together? Yeah, that's a great idea. Come on, guys. Let's go.
Objection!
Here we are again, at the credits. But this time, it's got a little bit of a different look to it. I arranged for a friend of mine in Europe to take Emma in or something like that. I hope she'll be pleased to study under a top coroner. As for me, this affair has pretty much ended my days at the prosecutor's office. Still, I'll manage to find my way back to the field somehow. Then I'll be able to investigate crimes together with Emma. I wish you luck. I'll wait until after the credits are done before I, end things. Yikes. I thought I was a goner for a moment there, and in the end, though, they overlooked my unauthorized investigation in the chief's office. If we penalized you anymore, it'd be worse than firing you. Yup, that's what they said. It just goes to show. You can't shake me off that easily. I guess not. I really wish that microphone support was implemented with this. For both the court segments and for some parts of the CSI gameplay for the chapter 5 of this game. My new mission is to guard the main entrance and take care of Billy. Can you believe it? I've been demoted to a security guard. My partner's keeping an eye on the entrance for me today. I'll show them, though. Someday I'm going to make detective. Yes, sir. Then I could be just like that Dick Gumshoe. Nobody should want to be like Sweet Shoe. But, yeah, as I was saying, it would have been nice if they had all the features from the DS version implemented for this. Even if I wasn't necessarily going to use them all that much, it would have been nice. You know, just to have the option. Looks like the Badger finally died on us. I'll get the funeral arrangements set up. What is it? Can't you see I'm having me a showdown with a steak lunch partner? Miss Star managed to sneak this into me. She's seen one of the guards, it seems. Well, cowboy, looks like you did it. You even gave Bambina back her smile. Can you make sure Billy and the gang get their water? Sure, after I finish watering Charlie. It looks like we won't be seeing each other for a while. As a farewell gift, I put a new meal on the menu, the Wright Way lunch. The top layer tastes a bit as bitter as defeat, but the bottom layer is as sweet as victory. Kids seem to dig the turnabout theme. It's a hot seller around exam time. Just make sure not to eat it backwards. Well, that was kind of you, to name the lunch after me. I'll never forget what that young defense lawyer said after the trial. Let's see, what was his name again? Mr. Left? Mr. Right. Anyway, he said he's been doing something or other for what years? Well, anyway, I got another trial to get to, so I'd better be... Huh? Oh no, I forgot my gavel! Sorry, gotta go! Well, we wouldn't want you to forget your gavel now, would we? That'd be... What would you bang your stand... What would you bang your table with? Your stand. Your desk. People's faces. Hey, Maya. Nothing soothes the soul like fresh country air. Still, sometimes I do miss hearing you and your objection. Still, I can't go back until I'm full-fledged spirit medium. Mystic Maya, afternoon train's about to begin. Coming! Well, see you around, Nick. So I guess at that moment we were Phoenix. Mr. Edgeworth. Mr. Edgeworth. I brought you your tea. What's going on? So, bellboy, what did you just find? It looked pretty interesting, that envelope. I'm totally sure that won't be relevant at some point in the future. Thanks for coming to see me off. I can't believe I'm going to Europe. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Thank you so much for everything. I'm a little sad, but I'll be alright. Whenever I want to see Lana, all I have to do is open this book. She put a picture in there. Oh, I get to mess around with one more thing. That's right. Aww. Achievement unlocked. Rise from the ashes. Well, that brings this Let's Play of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney to a close. Now I'll just go ahead and mute that here so that I don't have to keep talking over the music. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this Let's Play of this game. And I'll say this much, I certainly did. It was fun to check out the HD version on Steam. And I gotta say, they really did they did a fantastic job with the HD remaster, I think. There wasn't really anything wrong with any of the character animations or anything like that that really stood out to me. I didn't really notice any missing frame animations or anything, animation frames or anything like that. Everything looked nice and crisp. It was just gorgeous to see the game with this much clarity. So yeah, I'm real happy I'm happy to see that they actually gave the original games the remaster treatment. And here's to hoping that if this trilogy does well enough in terms of sales and shit, Capcom will actually consider doing the same thing for the Ace Attorney investigation games and maybe Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. Like, I don't know, maybe bundle all three of those games together as another trilogy set or something. Plus giving the second Ace Attorney Investigations game an official localization for the first time, which would be pretty sweet. I don't think that's too terribly likely to happen, if I'm being honest. Because typically it's the original trilogy that gets most of the attention compared to every other game in the series, and well, again, I think the chances of the other games getting remastered depends largely on the success of the Ace Attorney trilogy for this case. And I have no idea how well it's sold as of me recording this video. I'm hoping well enough because again, I really want to see the rest of the series get the HD remaster treatment. But it's just one of those things we'll have to wait and see, I guess. But yeah, if the other two games in the trilogy are done as well as the first game here was, then I think I can confidently say that overall the entire trilogy was a really great remaster. Is a really great remaster. And it's probably, in my opinion, the definitive way to play these games at this point. With the second best way being the Ace Attorney trilogy on the 3DS, and the third way being the original DS games. So, I've gone through this first game, but we still have, like I said, we still have two other games in the trilogy to go through. And even then, once I get through the other two games, I'm pretty sure I'm going to try and cover the rest of the series beyond the original trilogy. So, I don't know when I'll get around to playing the second game, Justice for All, but I definitely look forward to that day when I finally boot that game up again. Doubly so because, well, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All is my first ever visual novel game, and my first Ace Attorney game, period. I kind of played the series a little out of order when I first got into it. So, Justice for All, even though it's not exactly my favorite entry in the entire series, will be a bit of a nostalgia trip for me when I finally get around to playing it again. And I'd really love to see the whole game with the same graphical quality as the first game has, as I've seen throughout this entire Let's Play. I'll just be really excited to see how good the game will look now when I finally get around to playing it again. But, yeah, this game was fun. I mean, the story and premise, the overall story, series premise and whatnot is simple compared to a lot of more story-heavy games I've played up until now and will continue to play in the future. Namely, compared to, let's say, Zero Escape or Danganronpa. But, I mean, I don't know. I like the inherent simplicity behind this series, and the characters and the stories that they all go through are interesting, charming, funny, and pretty memorable. This is a series I'd just recommend to anybody who's not too familiar with visual novels, or he is a fan of visual novels but wants something fun and unique to play. Especially now that we, again, have this HD trilogy. Definitely the best way to play it. But I'm kind of becoming a broken record here. I don't really think there's anything else for me to really say. I mean, I think the game is great. Well, actually, I guess there is one thing I can talk about, and that's Chapter 5 of the first game. As I mentioned around the beginning of when I started Chapter 5 of this Let's Play, it wasn't part of the original version of Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney originally. The original Game Boy Advance version that was released only in Japan. This was a special episode that was created for the DS release of the first game across the world and into the Western countries. And it was that localization, that version of the game, was made around roughly the time that the third game in the original trilogy was made for the Game Boy. So there are references to the rest of the trilogy throughout this whole chapter. None of which I could really divulge because, well, that'd be spoilers for future Let's Plays, of course, and future entries. So I really couldn't do that, but it was nice also seeing those call forwards, as they're referred to, because technically they're not callbacks to previous entries because, well, this is the first entry in the series, and the other games that were referenced have yet to happen within the timeline. Hence the name Call Forward. But, yeah, I mean, there were a few things about Chapter 5, Rise from the Ashes, that I felt were kind of weak regarding its plot and in relation to the rest of the original game. Like how evidence law was handled. That was never really a factor that played into the original game at all. It was just something that they obviously just put in here just so they could have this final little trump card for me to use against Damon Gant in order to bring him to justice. Because evidence law didn't really mean all that much throughout the first 4 chapters of the game. And then, of course, this game will also retroactively influence how events in later games are seen. And that's all I'll say. And that's all I'll say on that for now. So, yeah, and I know there's other things I'm kind of forgetting right now, and I'm not going to sit here all day here trying to remember all of them. Maybe some of you guys might know some of these other issues off the top of your head and might want to point them out if you feel so inclined, but despite me feeling like the chapter Rise from the Ashes didn't 100% fit with the rest of the original game, and by extension the rest of the other games, really, it was still a pretty fun case. It was damn long, though. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that they made a special case for the first game when they released it overseas, just to give Western fans something extra to sink their teeth into that would also take advantage of the DS's hardware at the time. And, well, yeah, like I said, events from this case will also be referenced in later games. And, again, that's all I really have to say on that. But, yeah, I really don't think I have anything else that meaningful to say here. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and cut things off and bring this Let's Play to a close. I hope you guys enjoyed this Let's Play of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. But if you can't wait for me to play another game like Phoenix Wright, if you can't wait for me to play another Phoenix Wright game, and you want to see me play something similar to it, well, right after this Let's Play is finished, I'm going to get started on another visual novel game that'll have quite a few similar gameplay mechanics to this one. Maybe you guys will enjoy that. Anyway, I hope you all have a good day, and take care.